What's up, YouTube? Houston here. And for those of you just finding my YouTube channel, welcome. Please remember to hit that subscribe button and that bell. And for those of you that's been following me and supporting me, salute. And for my favorite patrons, always double salute. Now, today's video, we're actually going to be talking about how to boost your credit score and get funding without credit repair. Now, this is something interesting because I don't think a lot of people really realize, even though you may have challenging credit, how to actually get funding without doing credit repair. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. Now, here's the thing about it. For these lenders, in order to approve you, you can't have a credit freeze or a credit lock on your file. Okay, so if you currently have a credit freeze or a credit lock and you're trying to get funding, you need to take those locks off. Okay, take the freeze off. You can put them back on there after you get funding, but you need to take them off. Okay, now let's understand in terms of when you're trying to get funding from these lenders. These are not traditional lenders. These are third-party fintech lenders and stuff like that. So they're more or less focused on other data points in which we're going to talk about. But one of the things you have to understand, if you have something negative in your Clarity, because they use these third-party credit bureaus like Clarity, which is owned by Experian, DataX, which is owned by Equifax, and Trust Factor, which is owned by TransUnion. Okay, those are the main three that they will check. All right, so just make sure that if you have negative marks on those files, you want to lock those up. Okay, now here's another thing. If you have a lot of inquiries on your credit file, what you're going to need to do, you're going to have to lock up your LexisNexis and your Sage Stream, okay? And so that way you can challenge some of those hard inquiries before going after this funding. But if you follow my guidelines, I promise you it's going to be worth it. Now, let's talk about boosting up the credit score. How can we boost up the credit score? We're going to do that before we go get funding. And this is what's on the market right now, and the fastest way you can boost up your credit score. Because you can buy a system, some systems are free, some systems may cost you $20 a month. However, if it's going to give you a 25 to 100 points, hey, it's worth the investment, right? So you got Grow Credit and Purge. So if you have subscriptions, car insurance, you may have like a car wash thing. You may have a gym membership, anything like that. Then that can actually be a trade line that you can have reporting on your credit report, okay? Now, here's another thing that helps boost up the credit score is pledge loans and credit builder loans. Now, understand, you do not need a whole lot of different types of loans in order to get the maximum amount of funding. So I'm just letting you know that you can use those to build up the credit, but you don't need a whole lot of those to get the maximum amount of funding. Okay, so you don't have to pay out of pocket for these type of loans that I'm going to share with you. Basically what I'm saying. Then adding an authorized user. So adding an authorized user definitely can go anywhere from 25 to almost 80 points on boosting your credit score, okay? So we're going to talk about that. Then you have extra debit credit card app. And what that is, if you use your debit card a lot, you go on your phone, you download the extra credit card app, hook it up to it, and what they'll do, report all of your monthly debit card transactions as a trade line. Then you have your rental history that you can actually report, and we're going to talk about that. Now, let's understand about adding authorized users because this is so important. On your FICO 8 score, authorized users aren't calculated, okay? However, with your FICO 9, because the lenders we're going to be focusing on is FICO 9. I'm showing you all the lenders that focus on FICO 9 score. So with that being said, adding an authorized user would definitely help boost up your credit score again, because we want to try to boost up the credit score without doing any credit repair, okay? Now, places that report rent. This is so important, guys. If you are paying rent, okay, and say you've been paying rent for the past 5 years, what these companies would do, they would connect to your bank account, okay, and they will go back to 2 years. However, if you've been there for at least 5 years, on the credit file, it will show 5 years. You've been at that resident for 5 years. So you're getting 2 years of backdating plus that 5 years stated that you've been there, okay? So you pretty much, you're aging the file. And again, the older the file is, the better it is to help you to get qualified for funding. And these three here are the top business credit reporting, these are the top three rental credit reporting companies in the market. And the reason I chose them because they report to all three. There's at least 15 out there, but these three, they actually report to all three. Most of them just only report to two of the three, okay? Now, here's a company that I want you all to pay attention to, and I talk about it a lot in my other videos. It's CASHUSA, and why? Because they're not focused on the credit score, okay? That's not what they're focused on. They're focused on your income, how long you've been on your job, and your residence, right? That's what they're focused on. Now, they offer you from $500 up to $10,000, but you do have to have an active bank account, okay? So if you don't have an active bank account, they may be able to fund like your prepaid card or something like that, because I know there's a lot of people that don't have checking accounts, right? You may be in check system. But also, they deal with not just your regular traditional lenders, but they also deal with your tribal lenders, money that comes from casinos, right? Now, you have credit loans. Now, credit loans is interesting because, again, they're not worried about the credit score, okay? But they loan you up from $250 up to $40,000. The maximum, if you have bad credit, is $5,000. Unfortunately, they do not operate in New York and Connecticut. However, you can see they state that they have a high approval rate, 90% approval chance, right? Okay, and you have to have a checking account. Now, let me say something about CASHUSA. If you're in check system, they still may be able to get you qualified for a loan, okay? Now, let's look at some of these cards, okay? These are your FinTech cards. They pull FICO 9, all right? And they're for rebuilding credit, okay? And that's what you actually want. And with OPPFI, it starts at $1,000. Fortunately, they do charge an annual fee, but they don't put a hard inquiry on your credit score, and they report to the major credit bureaus. However, good payments after 6 months, they'll give you, they'll double it from 1,000 up to 2,000. Okay. Now you have CREDIT.AI. Now here's an interesting one. They'll give you a $1,500 trade line. What they do, they connect to your checking account. Make sure you have an active checking account and stuff like that. And if you have an active checking account, then they'll give you a $1,500 trade line. Now, here's where it starts to get good, because now you have other credit cards. Again, Experian, FICO 9, okay? So if you don't have a credit score, you don't have to worry about it. They don't charge you any annual fees. Now they have two cards. They have the PETAL 1. It goes from $300 to $5,000. That's for building and rebuilding your credit. And then the other one, the PETAL 2, the PETAL 2 is from $300 up to $10,000. Okay, so they also report to all three credit bureaus, and the good thing about it is they're not really focused on the credit score. Again, this is a company that looks at how long you've been on your job, your education, how long you've been at your residence, okay? So, and your income. That's what they focus on. Now, speaking of income, here's something that you guys need to know. If you have a roommate and that roommate is contributing to your expenses, that's income you can actually account. So when you put on the application, they say how much is a household income, you also can include the income you're getting from the share of the rent from your roommate, okay? Or if you have a spouse, you can also include your spouse's income on the application as well. So the higher the income, the higher the opportunity it is for you to get more funding, okay? Now, here's another card. Again, upgrade. Upgrade, especially like if you're rebuilding credit. This card, like if you just coming out of a bankruptcy, then you have a higher chance of approval. So they really work with people, okay? Now, the minimum score is a 560, okay? But the average score is a 678. Now, that does not mean you actually have to have a 678 to be approved, okay? I'm just saying that because I just told you, even with people coming out of bankruptcy, they actually work with them, all right? So their loans go from 500 up to 50,000. Now, the average income is 78,000, but I explained to you in terms of making sure that you include all the income in the household when you're putting it down for its household income, okay? Now, here's another thing, because you have to have at least 2 trade lines on the credit file, and we just talked about how to do that. But another great thing about it, their DTI, their debt to income ratio, is 75%. Okay, they go all the way up to 75%. Now, the unfortunate situation with them, here's something that you have to understand. It's like they don't operate in Colorado, Idaho, New York, Vermont, Virginia, Wisconsin, and Wyoming. All right, so just keep that in mind. Now, if you have any other questions about getting personal credit funding, besides not doing the credit repair and you're trying to figure out how to get more funding and stuff, set up a consultation by clicking the link in the description, so I can actually look at your credit report and I can give you some suggestions in terms of how you may be able to raise funding. So this is Houston with Three-Way Funding. Thank you.